Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky vows Russia will be defeated, just as Nazi Germany was at the end of World War II.
Israeli airstrikes kill at least 9 people in Gaza, including 3 Islamic Jihad commanders and members of their families.
Anti-government protests in Serbia as anger grows after last week's back-to-back mass shootings.
The Ukrainian president says that Russia will be defeated like Nazi Germany was defeated. Volodymyr Zelensky has proposed a bill to establish the 8th of May as the day of remembrance and victory over Nazism in World War II in Ukraine. And on the 9th, the nation will honour Europe's support after Russia's invasion.
Сьогодні я підписав відповідний указ. І щороку, від завтра, 9 травня, ми будемо вшановувати нашу історичну єдність. Єдність усіх європейців, які знищили нацизм і переможуть рашизм.
The decision breaks with Russia's tradition of celebrating it on the 9th. Zelensky's address comes after Russia launched a wave of strikes on major Ukrainian cities early Monday morning. The country's air defences says it shot down 35 Iranian-made drones over Kyiv overnight. 5 people were injured by falling debris, according to officials. Over in the southern Odessa region, Russian forces used long-range bombers to launch up to 8 cruise missiles, according to authorities. They say some of the Soviet-era missiles self-destructed or fell into the sea before hitting targets. There were no reports of casualties by Monday morning.
The Israeli military said it struck Islamic Jihad targets in the Gaza Strip early on Tuesday, claiming 3 militant commanders and members of their families were killed. The Palestinian Health Ministry said at least 9 people died, including a number of children. Local media reports the strikes hit the residences of senior members of the group in the southern city of Rafah. Islamic Jihad, which is smaller than the dominant ruling Hamas movement, confirmed that 3 of the group's commanders were among the dead. The latest attacks come as tension boils between Israel and militants in Gaza. Israel has been conducting almost daily raids to detain Palestinians suspected of carrying out attacks on Israelis in increasing violence in the occupied West Bank. In anticipation of rocket attacks in response, the Israeli military told residents within 40 kilometres of Gaza to stay close to bomb shelters.
Police officers in Serbia are being deployed to all 1,800 schools in the country as pupils return to regular classes after last week's mass shootings. More than 2,000 officers are being assigned to patrol in and around school buildings. President Alexander Vučić has also demanded a 90% reduction of firearms in circulation.
Mere su takve da mi od sutra uzimamo nelegalno oružje, kod koga ga pronađemo, a taj ne dostavi, imate mjesec dana rok da dostavite policijskoj stanici nelegalno oružje i nelegalnu municiju.
Bez posljedica.
Bez ikakvih posljedica. Niko vas neće pitati ni odakle, ni kako, ni šta. Samo donesite i ostavite.
Since a 13-year-old boy opened fire on his classmates and a shooting spree by a 20-year-old man last week, there's been growing public anger against the government. There are calls for ministers to quit and for closure of state-controlled mainstream media that promote violence and often host convicted war criminals.
Postoji potreba da se iz korena menja ceo sistem, pa i sistem obrazovanja, zato što sam majka 2 učenika i želim da oni žive u neko bolje vreme nego što smo mi 90-ih i 2000-ih i danas.
Čitavu atmosferu, klimu, što bi se reklo, to je stvorio sistem, odnosno konkretno prvi čovjek je glavni inicijator ove srpske nesreće.
Serbia has the highest level of gun ownership in Europe, with roughly 39 out of 100 people owning firearms.
Social unrest haunts Emmanuel Macron even on Victory in Europe Day. The French president went to Lyon to commemorate the defeat of Nazi Germany and the end of World War II in Europe. Macron met veterans and visited the Montluc prison, where several French resistance fighters, such as Jean Moulin, were held. From there, the cries of another resistance could just about be heard.
C'est juste insupportable qui récupère notre héros de la résistance, Jean Moulin, qui se rachètent une conduite alors qu'ils font exactement ce pourquoi Jean Moulin s'était battu.
Et on vient commémorer alors que le président est totalement en train d'opprimer son peuple et de privilégier une partie de la population. C'est risible, quoi, c'est n'importe quoi. Il n'y a plus aucune démocratie dans ce gouvernement. Donc c'est surtout pour ça que je manifeste, moi. C'est pour le manque de démocratie et le manque de partage et d'égalité.
Moi je sais que... on dit beaucoup aussi aux jeunes, ouais vous taffez pas vous machin. Moi j'ai des potes qui se cassent le dos depuis des années. Ils ont commencé à bosser à 16 ans dans des magasins. Enfin eux qui va les protéger, qui va les aider en fait.
At least 3 people were arrested as scuffles with the police broke out at the demonstration. Scandals, ideological lurchers, suspicions of cronyism. The image of the Greens as a synonym for coherence and honesty in the German political landscape is crumbling. Robert Habeck, the Minister for Economic Affairs, has been hit by accusations of nepotism against his number 2, State Secretary Patrick Greichen, who gave a well-paid post to a close friend. Amid criticism from the opposition, Habeck and Greichen acknowledged that there was an error of form, but not of substance. In a tweet, the Conservative opposition leader said, "Official clientism and nepotism may be corrected, but the damage to our country will not be repaired so quickly." The opposition's also attacked legislation passed by the government to ban individual gas and oil heating in new construction. In a statement that betrays his doubts, the Minister of Economics has indicated that it's likely to come into force later than originally planned. Many Germans are also angry about the fulfilment of an historic promise, the shutdown of nuclear power plants. In a context of energy shortages linked to the war in Ukraine, many politicians and citizens would prefer to prolong the power stations' lives. A few months ago, the government gave the green light to the controversial exploitation of the Lützerath coal mine in a gesture that did not please their ideological bases. The polls revealed that if elections were held today, the Greens would have about 16% of the votes and could cede their third position to the far-right AFD.
Following the weekend execution of an Iranian-Swedish man for alleged terrorism, 2 further prisoners are reported to have been put to death by Iranian authorities, this time for blasphemy. Youssef Mered and Saladeh Fazidi Zair were hanged at a prison in central Iran. They had been accused of insulting the Prophet Muhammad and promoting atheism. The latest judicial killings continue an upward trend of executions in which the condemned have been mainly opponents of Iran's religious regime and ethnic minorities. Last month, a report by Western NGOs revealed a dramatic surge in the application of the death penalty in the Islamic Republic last year. 582 people were put to death for a range of alleged crimes, placing it second in the rankings of countries that use capital punishment. The increase coincides with months of anti-regime protests and a subsequent bloody crackdown that has left hundreds dead and many more jailed.
Le mouvement, dans sa dimension politique, a échoué, c'est-à-dire le renversement du régime islamique. Mais dans sa dimension culturelle, en un sens, il a réussi. Il a révélé, en quelque sorte, la crise majeure de légitimité de ce pouvoir.
In Iran, acts of civil disobedience are a daily occurrence. Since the death of the young Kurdish woman Mahsa Amini last September, Iranians continue to protest. But in the face of brutal government repression, this resistance has been forced to adapt.
Iranians, they have taken a step back and have stopped the very open protests that we saw at the end of last year. There is still the potential for a major uprising inside Iran. It's by no means over.
Today, the Cultural Revolution is entering a new phase. Its impact on the current regime could be major in the long term.
Il y a de nombreux groupes politiques et d'opposition qui se sont déjà formés. Ils ont besoin visiblement du temps pour essayer d'entendre les positions des unes des autres et essayer d'aller peut-être vers une coalition pour éventuellement le renversement du régime ou le changement du régime.
Internationally, the brutal crackdown on the protests has caused a major reaction.
So what leaders in EU countries, but also the United States, they have done over the past months is sanction individuals that are responsible for the crimes committed, for the human rights violations committed inside Iran, which means their assets inside the European Union have been frozen and they are banned from entering the European Union.
But for some, the reaction has been insufficient.
Ces sanctions sont très, très timides. Ces résolutions des puissances européennes et états-uniennes sont très timides encore. Et la raison principale peut-être est que pour l'instant, il n'y a pas encore d'alternative acceptée par la majorité des contestataires.
Some say the sanctions are ineffective and the international community's interest has declined.
La guerre en Ukraine, si vous voulez, mobilise totalement les États occidentaux contre la Russie. Et par conséquent, l'Iran devient un enjeu en quelque sorte secondaire.
But the anger is still there. Experts say it's only a matter of time before a new wave of protests begin, and with that, potential for change.
The countdown of the regime started from the day they killed Mahsa, but it's just a question of how long time it will take. Iranian regime doesn't have any future, and I think they have acknowledged it, and I think the world should also acknowledge it.